I want to talk a little bit about what you should do if you have no direction in your 20s and you're trying to figure out what to do with your life. I have plenty of experience of what it's like to be directionless in your 20s. My 20s were a blur. I've talked about it a bunch. I spent a lot of time gaming. I spent a lot of time drinking. I spent a lot of time wasting money and wasting my time in my 20s. I am a high school dropout. I didn't go to college. I did get my GED, but I didn't do much with my life. And it took me a really long time to figure things out. I did eventually get my stuff together, but I wasted a large portion of my 20s doing nothing. Like legit, like from 20 to 28, I just wasted a bunch of time. And finally, when I was 28 years old, I started kind of figuring stuff out. I guess that's one of the first things I'll start off by saying is that if you're 20 years old or in your early 20s and you're having a hard time figuring out what it is you want to do, don't worry too much because you do have time. Although it doesn't feel that way, because it does feel like there's this sense of desperation and that you're racing against the clock. And trust me, that feeling gets worse as you get older because time does go by faster, or feels like it does when you do get older. You may be feeling that way when you're in your 20s, and you may be feeling like you're losing your opportunity or that you're losing the opportunity to have opportunities. But the truth is that you do have some time. So don't panic, right? Don't freak out, but you should have a little bit of that. Like a little bit of that panic is good. A little bit of that worry is good, because if you are feeling that way, that means that you're thinking about the future. That means that you're concerned about important things. See, I was the opposite. I wasn't concerned about these things when I was in my 20s. I would have never watched a video giving me advice on what I should be doing in my 20s if I was directionless. I wish I would have, because I probably would have benefited a lot from it. But the fact that those things are worrying you at a young age is good, because it means that it's something that you're already thinking about and that's on your mind. And because of the fact that you are thinking about it, that means that you're already taking action towards working on that. Even though it may not be direct action, it's indirect action by just being concerned about it. And if lack of direction is something that you really are struggling with and you are worried about time, but you don't know what to do, start thinking about all the things that you would like to do. Like seriously, like write them down and think about it. And it doesn't matter if you don't currently have anything going on. Like if you would have asked me when I was 20, like, well, what is it that you want to do? And probably answered like, I don't know, get drunk, smoke weed, play video games all day. I had no idea like what I could do or what I wanted to do. And I never really thought about it. You know, people would tell me, why don't you go to school? I knew I didn't want to go to school. Like that was something that just never interested me. So all I did was just kind of keep working tip jobs. I remember that was like the goal I set for myself. And I ended up doing well with it because it was the only thing I focused on. But really all I had to do was show up. That was most of the battle. And eventually when I got tired of one job, I'd find another and another and another until I just kept moving jobs. And that worked out for me. Sometimes that doesn't work out for people, but I wish I would have actually like sat down and really thought about what it was that I wanted to do. And if what you want to do is make money, that's a perfectly fine goal to have. If what you want to do is travel, that's also a good goal. Some people aren't driven just for financial purpose. Some people want experiences, and that's okay. But if you literally don't know what it is that you want to do, sit down and think about those things. Don't worry so much about how you're going to get it accomplished, but at least knowing what it is that you want to do is going to get you a long way. And then you can start making the plans towards how you can accomplish those goals. So if you want to make money, if that's like your big goal and you're 20 years old, like think about that. Like say, all right, well, I want to make money. And then start thinking about things that you might actually be able to do that can bring you in money. And if you've just mostly worked minimum wage jobs and have no real skill or value that you can provide people, start thinking about things that you can learn that can make you money. And this is the honest truth. If you want to make yourself valuable to people, to jobs, to customers, to employers, whatever, you have to have something that you can provide. You have to be able to provide a service. You have to be able to provide goods. You have to be able to give someone something that they need, take care of people's problems. And there's a lot of different ways of doing it. Like when I was in my early 20s, I had a friend of mine that I was pretty envious of because he was very money driven. And he was a lot like me, was a high school graduate. He didn't go to college. He didn't do anything like that, but he chose to start driving trucks. At the time, like he made really, really, really good money. I mean, we were in our early 20s. I think he was like a year older than me, and he was making over 100 grand a year. He was like 25 years old, and he was balling. He drove trucks. Like all he had to do was get his commercial driver's license. He worked real hard for like a short amount of time for a local company. He saved up some money to put a down payment on his own truck. He opened up his own business, got an LLC, and then he started doing private driving, moving trailers across the country for people who needed him, and he hired himself out, and he did very well. And really all he did was tell himself he wanted to make money, figured out a way to make money, and followed through with it, worked really hard, and got it done. And I know that there's a lot of negative people out there that'll be like, oh, well, yeah, well, he was lucky, you know. There's a quote that I've heard recently that has really stuck with me, and it said, we're all self-made. It's just the successful ones that talk about it. And that's the truth. If you want something and you're willing to work hard enough for it, you'll get it. My buddy started his own trucking company. Go mow lawns, go wash cars, go start your own business, or go learn a skill that'll pay you more money an hour than what you're making now. If you're making minimum wage and you're stuck at a minimum wage job, what's stopping you from going and learning a skill and getting a better paying job? You are the only one stopping yourself from doing that. If my old ass could learn how to code at 32 years old and become a software developer in my 30s with a baby on the way, as a high school dropout with a GED and no college degree, there is nothing stopping you except yourself. And that's the honest truth. You gotta be willing to put in work. There's no reason to not be able to figure out a way, especially now with the internet, especially now with YouTube. All you have to do is type in what you want to do on Google or on YouTube or in Chat GPT, and you will literally have step-by-step directions on how to accomplish almost anything you want. So don't make excuses. If you're young and you keep telling yourself, well, I don't know what it is that I want to do, well, go find what it is you want to do. Figure something out. Set goals. If I could go back when I was 20 years old, I would tell myself, like, set some goals. Who cares if you don't have any direction now? Try to make a direction for yourself, because I think that's the biggest problem that many of us that feel like we have nothing to inspire to be, that feel like we have no goals. Well, make some. Like take some time and make some. Stop giving yourself excuses. Stop living a lazy, unfulfilling life, because you're literally the only one that's in your way. I say this all the time. I used to be my own worst enemy. I used to get in my own way. I used to tell myself I couldn't do stuff. I would convince myself that I had failed before I even tried. And it was maybe because of how I was brought up, maybe because I never had encouragement when I was younger, maybe because a lot of adults when I was younger would tell me that I was just not going to amount to much. Maybe it's because I believed all that and let them convince me, let myself convince me that I couldn't do stuff. The only person stopping you from doing the things you want to do are you.